Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today, I have the pleasure of having Brent Kesler step in, the owner and founder of the Money Multiplier, which honestly, I have to say, Brent, this is some solid branding that you got there. I was looking at your domain. I'm like, how the heck did he get that? Like, that's awesome. Good for you. So first of all, welcome to the lab. How are you doing today, Brent?
Hey, man, I am awesome. I'm so glad to be here, Ruben. So glad to share with your listeners. So this is going to be some eye-opening, exciting information. I hope you find it to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were just talking about this off the air about, who is the audience, who are we going to speak to? And I told you, I was like, look, we have investors, we have entrepreneurs, we have people who are always looking to make their money work for themselves. So they've already gotten, I guess they've already been primed to some certain extent, right? But now we want to take it a step further and get into your ecosystem, your world, because obviously you talk about this, you're doing tons of speaking and engaging and getting people the awareness of this concept that I'm very curious to unfold with you. But because I believe that every entrepreneur is a reflection, or their business is a reflection of themselves, what problem were you solving in your world when you came across the Money Multiplier? I'm very curious. How did this come about?
Well, yeah. So actually, my background, Ruben, is as a chiropractor. I'm actually a chiropractor. I own 5 clinics in the Kansas City area. I have not been practicing since 2008. However, I sold my last clinic in 2017, and I had chiropractic associates in my office. And anyway, I was at a chiropractic conference when I heard this information that I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit today. And actually, I was in that conference and I heard this information. I heard somebody talk about it. And I was like, man, this looks really, really good, but it looks too good to be true, right? Have you ever seen something like that where you look at it, it looks good, but it seems too good to be true? Well, that was me. So I heard this information and I thought it looked good, but it seems too good to be true. So I went home. I went back just to my regular life. I went back to being a chiropractor. And so I did nothing with that information that I got. Well, then, Ruben, I went back to another chiropractic conference about a year and a half later. And about 10 or 12 of my colleagues that were at the previous conference, they were just, okay. So anyway, so the thing is they came to that conference. And so they were ranting and raving, going on and on about this banking concept, right? About how they were building their wealth, paying off their debt, recapturing all of the money that was going out to other people, all without working harder, changing your cash flow, or taking any additional risk. All they were doing was adding one step to their financial life. So I thought to myself, there has to be something to this. There's no way that 10 or 12 of my closest colleagues would be lying to me. Yeah, okay, maybe 1 or 2 were lying, but not 10 or 12. So I went home and I told my wife, and it was in February of 2008. And I told her, I said, honey, I said, we've got to start implementing this process and this concept in our life. And in February 2008, Ruben, I was $984,711 in debt. That's what I owed to the third-party creditors, almost $1 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, how does a guy from Kansas get to be almost $1 million in debt? Because I know if you live somewhere like California or New York, it buys you a very small house, but in Kansas, it buys you a lot, right? Well, here's how I was in the debt. Okay, so I had my chiropractic student loans. I had the house that I lived in. I had my office. I also had a house on the Lake of the Ozarks between St. Louis and Kansas City. And obviously, if you have a house on the lake, the thing you have to have is a boat and a wave runner, right? I mean, right. There's no way that you can have a house on the lake without a boat and a wave runner. And I'm also an airplane pilot. So as a pilot, I had to have my own airplane. So it didn't take me a lot to become $1 million in debt almost. Well, I was able to take this process and this concept. Okay. So now that I teach, and I was able to implement that, and I was able to pay that debt off in 39 months, 3 years, 3 months. I never had to work harder, change my cash flow, take any additional risk, or lose control. All I did was added one step into my financial life. And that totally changed the way that I looked about wealth and money. And I became so passionate about it. As a matter of fact, it was in 2006 when I first heard about it. And it was in 2008 when I started implementing it in my life. And then I started teaching it in 2012. So I've been teaching this concept now around the country for a little over 9 years.
So we're going to unwrap that. And I love that you gave the audience some context. One thing I want to talk about that we don't talk about often is what we're doing right here. Like, we're planting seeds to our listeners, even to myself. And what I want to understand is, like, how do you compress that amount of time from, it took you 2 years to implement. So when you go to a conference, I know a lot of our listeners are really big on, okay, listening to podcasts, getting some insight, but then it comes a time and place where you need to take action. What would you say, looking back, is the thing that you would say is like almost like a rocket fuel to help you take action faster? Is there something you would have done or something looking back that you would give advice to our listeners on how to actually take action with the information you receive?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I totally agree with you, because I mean, a lot of people, they watch stuff, they read stuff, they listen to stuff, but then it stops there, right? They never take that action, right? So yes, they get the knowledge, but they never apply the knowledge. So it's the application of the knowledge that you get.
Why did it take you so long? I'm curious, Brent.
Well, it took me because I thought it was too good to be true. I thought the concept was too good to be true. I was like, there's no way this can work like this, right? So the thing I should have done is I should have started to research it earlier, because however, it's a totally outside of the box concept. It's not what our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our colleagues, and our coworkers are doing with money and wealth. It's not what we've been taught. It's not conventional thinking. So you've got to start thinking outside of the box. And I will tell you, the thing that I tell my children now is I say, don't be a lemuric, right? So like a lemuric is an animal that follows what the other lemuric does. Like, for example, a lemuric will go to the edge of a cliff, and so normally a lemuric will travel in a herd. There's a pack of them, right? There's a pack of limericks. It's not just one, it's like 10 or 20. And the thing is, so if you have a lemuric that walks to the edge of the cliff, and okay, so the lemuric that's in the very front, the thing they'll do is they'll jump off the cliff to their death. Well, guess what the other limericks do? They follow. They all jump off the cliff to their death, right? So don't do what everybody else is doing. I teach my children, I say, watch what the masses of people are doing, and you go do the opposite, right? So you got to think outside of the box. And at that time, I just wasn't. I was so into conventional, traditional thinking about money, about, okay, the thing I do is I go get a good job. I work for 40 years, and then the government will take care of me, right? Well, that's a bunch of bull crap, right? So, right, because again, right, so that's what our parents, grandparents, friends, colleagues, and coworkers are doing. So like, take your money, put it in a 401k, an IRA, a qualified plan, and wait to use that money later, right? So anyway, the thing I would do is I would listen to the Dave Ramseys of the world, the Susie Ormans. As a matter of fact, okay, All right. The thing I would do, Ruben, is that I would record Susie Orman every Saturday night. If I wasn't home to watch it, I would record it because I wanted to do what Susie Orman said. But then I found out she was lying to me when I found out the truth about money. So the thing we do is we get programmed and we get hoodwinked and swindled into what conventional thinking is. So every time I do a presentation, I always start it with this video that you can find on YouTube. It's called the backward bicycle. The backward bicycle video. So like if you go to YouTube and you plug in the backward bicycle, it's about a 7.5-minute video. That's how I start all of my presentations because it is a paradigm shift. This is not the norm, right? So the reason I show that video is because we have to start thinking a little different. We have to start thinking outside of the box and not do what everybody else is doing. And then also, Ruben, the concept that I teach is not brand new. It's not on trial. It's not like, let's try this out and see if it's going to work. No, man. It's been around for over 200 years. This is what the wealthy do with their money. This is the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays. So this is what Robert Kiyosaki talks about in his book called Second Chance. This is what Tony Robbins talks about in his book called Money Master the Game. This is how Walt Disney built Disneyland. This is how Ray Kroc funded McDonald's. This is how Pampered Chef got started before Warren Buffett bought Pampered Chef for $1.5 billion. So the concept that I teach is not on trial. It's not being tested. This is what the wealthy do. So all we need to do is we need to mimic and imitate exactly what the wealthy do. And that's all I'm doing now. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to create something on my own. I just am going to watch and mimic and imitate exactly what they do. And I've been doing that now for the last 13 years. And I am building my wealth right along with them.
Right.
By
So
totally keeping control of my own money.
I love that. And we're going to get into the details. And one thing I want to make sure that doesn't slip through the cracks is you said something key that I want to highlight there. You said you didn't know the truth about money. If you were to summarize that real quick, like what would you say is if you were to talk to yourself 20 years, 25 years ago, 30 years, however long, what truth would you disclose right now to yourself about money that we have a big misconception on?
Well, yeah. So the thing that we think of is that, okay, again, it's kind of what our parents and grandparents taught us, get a good job. So like take your money and just try to save it in a government planned vehicle, such as a 401k, an IRA, or a qualified plan. And down the road, the thing we're going to do is be able to take that money out to live on retirement. Well, the problem is all those plans are not guaranteed. So when you put your money in a qualified plan, 401k, IRA, okay, so the thing you're doing is just taking your good dollars today and you're going to put them into those plans. So what you're going to do is completely give up control of that money. And in the future, the thing that's going to happen is they're going to pay you back with non-guaranteed dollars. Because remember, any money that you put in that plan is not guaranteed. Well, I shouldn't say that. Okay? So the only guarantee is it's guaranteed to never go below zero. But how exciting would that be if that actually happened? I mean, right now, everybody on this call, all of your listeners know somebody at retirement age that has to work at retirement age, not because they want to be working at retirement age, but they have to work because their qualified plan, their 401k, their IRA, their pension, whatever it is, it didn't turn out the way they thought it was going to, the way they were told it was going to. So you all know people that are working not because they want to, but because they have to for survival. So the thing that I do is I teach you to keep total control of your own money. Because if you think of it, $1 is always worth more today than it is in the future. All right. So think about like how many candy bars that you could buy 25 years ago for $1 and how many you can buy today for $1, right?
Yeah, right.
So $1 is always worth more today. Taxes are always going to go up, right? They're always going to go up. All right. Okay. So the whole history of taxes has been that they go up. And even if taxes don't go up, the thing that we do is get taxed on more things all the time. And if you have to pay tax, all right, so if you have a choice of paying tax on the small amount of the seed or the large amount of the harvest, which one do you want to pay tax on? Well, you want to pay it on the seed, the small amount. I agree with all three of those answers, but all three of those answers, by you putting your dollars into that 401k, IRA, qualified plan, by you giving it to someone else, by you giving up control, you have violated all three of those questions. Because the thing you do in those plans, the thing you do is you give them your good dollars, okay, today, and they pay you back with non-guaranteed dollars in the future. The tax is always going to go up. So you're going to pay tax on the, right? So the thing you do is as the tax goes up, you're going to pay it on the larger amount and not the smaller amount. And then, right? And then when you do pay tax, it's going to be paid on the harvest and not the seed. So all of those things are happening and people don't realize it. They just don't get it because they've never been taught another way. They've been taught the conventional things of what to do with their money, and they follow what the norm is, what other people are doing. So I'm just going to challenge you to think outside of the box. And if you just add one simple process, one simple concept in your life. Again, I'm not going to change anything that your listeners are doing. I'm not telling them to invest differently. I'm not telling them to stop investing in real estate or, antique cars, stocks, bonds, right? I never tell anyone where to put their money. All right. I never tell anybody how to invest, whether you like investing all right, whether you like investing in houses and real estate, stocks or bonds, so antique cars, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever it is, that's okay. All I'm saying is let's add one simple step, one process to what you're already doing. And when you do that, you will drastically change your financial life.
Okay, so let's get right into it because you said something that jumped out and should capture our attention. A, you're not reinventing the wheel; it's been around. Then you named some pretty notable people in our, the world, really worldwide. I mean, you talk about Rockefeller. You talk about a lot of people who are using this, and we need to be aware of it. And you also talk about a key number that is not a small number. You talked about really being able to pay off close to $1 million in 3 years. So what is the money multiplier? How would you define it to somebody, to your 7-year-old, to anybody who's listening, so that we can kind of start getting a grasp of this area that we're not really tapping into?
Got it. Well, yeah. Anyway, okay. So the whole concept is driven, all right, by this book right here. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. Okay. And actually, R. Nelson Nash, he passed away 2 years ago, March of 19, at age 87 years old. This is a book that you want to add to your financial library. This book completely changed my financial life. So this is the concept that I teach. It's called the infinite banking concept. And if you're like me and have a little ADD and, all right, don't like to read, it also has 2 hours of audio with it. Now, what you can do is, okay, go to our website, www.themoneymultiplier.com, and the thing, you can order the book, or you can go on Amazon and order. And I'm not here to sell you the book. I just want you to know the knowledge of where it's coming from.
Can you give us some context for our listeners of who this gentleman is? Obviously, I'm very aware of who he is. For those who are listening, like, R. Nash, who? Steve Nash?
Yeah.
What?
What
are we talking about?
R. Nelson Nash.
Yeah.
He actually is from Alabama. He's from Birmingham, Alabama. And again, he's the one that wrote this book. So he's kind of like the Mac Daddy, the godfather, the grandfather of the infinite banking concept. I owe everything to his teaching. So I definitely suggest that you add this book to your wealth building library. Now, I've just kind of put a turbocharger on what he taught. He has 3 books out, actually. He has that book, Becoming Your Own Banker. There's another book called The Case for IBC. IBC stands for Infinite Banking Concept. And the other book is The Warehouse to Wealth. Now, okay, the thing I did is that I wrote a book about a year ago now. It was I think it was April of 2020, March of 2020, something like that. So anyway, it's called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. Now I'm going to offer this book to all of your listeners. I'll offer the ebook. I'll send you the ebook for free. And if you want the hard copy of the book, I'll send that to you. And all you do is you pay postage. It's like $3 to ship it in the United States. So if you really want the hard copy, all you do is pay the postage. I'll send you the book. But it's not necessary to get the hard copy because I'll send you the ebook. So all you do is send me an email, Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com, and I'll send you the ebook. So anyway, I wrote this book about a year ago, and I wrote the book, okay, so the thing I did, I wrote it with a colleague of mine. His name is Chris Noggle. Now, Chris Noggle has been my client for several years, okay? Now, a lot of you in the industry, in houses and real estate, you may know and have heard of Chris Noggle because he's had a couple TV shows on HGTV. He's had one on House Hunters. His most recent one was called Risky Builders that was on HGTV. Chris is very active in the real estate world. If you are not following Chris Noggle on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you need to go follow him. Follow Chris Noggle and watch what he's doing. Watch his teachings on this concept. Now, Chris was a financial advisor for New York Life for 14 years. He was a stockbroker. Chris will tell you all those years at New York Life, they never taught him about this infinite banking concept. They never taught him. Chris will tell you everything he learned about it was he learned it through me. But now Chris is like a master at this. He's a master teacher of the concept because he's been a customer for so long, and now he teaches it just like I do. So we're on the same team, which is the Money Multiplier team. So you definitely want to go follow Chris Noggle. Very active in the real estate world. So go Google, just Google either my name, which is Brent Kesler, or go just put my name in YouTube, or Google Chris Noggle, put his name in YouTube, and you will see the plan designs, the case studies, the success stories, the testimonials, right? So there's all kind of stuff out there on just on the items that we teach. So you definitely want to get around this and see how it works. Now, to get to your question, Ruben, what is this? What is it? Well, the concept that we teach is we teach you how to build wealth through your own debts and expenses that you already have. All right. All right. So what does that mean? Well, the thing is, let's just talk about money for a minute. All money is a means of exchange, right? So if I ask you to tell me what the definition of money is, you guys would give me a lot of definitions. But all it really is a means of exchange, because the thing we do with money every day is what? We exchange it for products and services. In other words, we exchange money for food, food for money, car for money, money for car, house for money, money for house. Well, the thing you have to do in order to exchange that money to buy a product and service, the thing you have to do is take that money and you have to give it to someone else. And the thing you do is after you give that money to someone else, in exchange, they give you the product or service that you're buying. But that money, Ruben, has left your family forever. So anytime I give that money to someone, the money is gone. Well, how about if there's a way that I can show you how to not only buy your products and services. So you're going to give the money to the other individual, okay, to the other individual. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you the product or service. So they get the money, you got the product or service. But how about if there's a way you can get all the money back? So not only do you get the product or service, but you also get all of the money back too. So we're recapturing and we're recycling that money. It's a closed system. There's no money being leaked out to other people. So not only do you get the product or service that you just bought, but you get all the money back. Now, I have a presentation that you can watch how to do this. And it's about an hour and a half long. And all you do is you go to my website, themoneymultiplier.com, www.themoneymultiplier.com. At the top of the homepage, the thing you do is you click on resources and then you click on presentation. And I have an hour and a half plus presentation. It's all broken up into 10 individual sections. I have the downloadable attachments there with all of the examples. And when you watch that, you will have almost a complete understanding of how this concept works, because I show you exactly the way the concept works. Now, guess what, Ruben? The product that we're going to use to build our wealth, okay? Because yes, there is a vehicle, a product that we're going to use to build our wealth. And it's going to surprise you and your audience when I tell you what it is. And I'm about to tell you that now. And as soon as I tell you, you're going to be like, what? That's not possible. I know everything there is to know about that product, and nobody that I know is building their wealth through this product. Well, here it comes. The product that we're going to use to build our wealth, Ruben, is a whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. Now, I wish that you could be where I'm at right now and see all of your faces, because here's what you're thinking. You guys are thinking, what? A whole life insurance policy to build wealth? That's crazy. That's ridiculous. I know everything there is to know about whole life insurance. No, you don't. You do not know, because if you really knew how this product worked, you would own a ton of it, but you don't know how it works. See, it's not any type of policy. It's not any type of life insurance policy. It is a specific whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends with high immediate cash value. With high immediate cash value. And yes, when I say immediate, my definition of immediately is within 30 days. So in other words, Ruben, when you put money or dollars into that policy, you are able to start using that money immediately. And my definition of immediately is in the first 30 days. And that money that you put in the policy, it grows at a guaranteed growth rate of compound interest. It grows uninterrupted. So it's uninterrupted compound interest. So when you put money into the policy, it automatically grows at that guaranteed tax-free growth rate, which currently, as we sit here and talk in April of 2021, the guaranteed growth rate is 4%. That's the guaranteed rate, assuming the insurance company does not pay a dividend. If the insurance company pays a dividend, it's higher than 4%. Now, I can't guarantee you, Ruben, the insurance company will pay a dividend this year, next year, 5 or 10 years from now. But every insurance company that I write business with, Ruben, has been paying dividends for over 140 consecutive years without fail. I'll say that one more time. 140 consecutive years without fail. So do you think there's a pretty good chance that they're going to pay a dividend this year, next year, 5 and 10 years from now? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But even if they don't, I'm only talking about the guaranteed growth rate in the policy and not the dividend. So that's what I do, Ruben. I am the servicing agent on the policy. So I'm the one that you buy the policy from. So no, not Brent Kesler are you writing the check to, not my company, the Money Multiplier, are you writing the check to. The thing you do is you write the check to the insurance company, and I am the servicing agent. I'm structuring your policy so you have the high cash value. So how do I get paid if you guys never write me a check? I get paid a commission on the policy that you start. So in other words, Ruben, I get paid the same way your car insurance guy gets paid, the same way your house insurance guy gets paid. So when you go to John Smith, the Allstate man, to buy car insurance, the check that you write is not to John Smith. You write it to Allstate, and Allstate writes John Smith a check for a commission. So that's how I get paid. No matter who you do a policy with, right? Somebody's going to get paid a commission. Now, the reason that you want to do it with me, Ruben, and all right, the reason you want to do it with me and not your brother-in-law that sells life insurance is because your brother-in-law that sells life insurance doesn't understand the banking concept, right? All of us have a brother-in-law that sells life insurance, okay? So the reason you want to do it with me and not them is they don't understand the concept. And if they do understand the concept, all right, so after you watch this podcast and you go out and okay, the thing you tell is your brother-in-law or your friend or whoever you know that sells life insurance, and you say, hey, I heard this guy Brent speak on this concept by R. Nelson Nash, the infinite banking concept, and so probably what they may tell you is they say, oh, yeah, I know how to do that. I can help you with that. Well, if they can help you with it, why in the hell haven't they told you already? Now, here's a way you can really find out if they know what they're talking about. Number one, ask them 3 questions. Number one, ask them to show you how you can borrow at a higher rate than, how you can borrow at a higher rate than what you're earning and make money all day long. They can't show you. I show you that in my presentation. Number 2, ask them to show you how you're going to get all the money back for all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own for the rest of your life. So not only do you buy the car and get the car, but now you get all the money back for that car that you bought. And if it can work for a car, it can work for anything. A boat, a bicycle, a cell phone, a computer, a chandelier, a big screen TV, a big conference room table, any product or service that you buy. They're not going to be able to show you that because they don't know, right? And I show you that in my presentation. And the third thing is have them create you what we call a money multiplier map. For all of our clients, the thing that we do is we provide you with this map, the money multiplier map, where now you see how you're going to pay off your debt or pay your expenses and recycle and recapture that money. So as I said earlier, I had $984,711 of debt. I paid it off in 39 months. So the example I show you in my presentation is a guy that had $470,000 of debt, and he owed 12 third-party creditors, and he paid that $470,000 off, Ruben. It was, okay, so it was going to take him 18 years to pay it off, but because he implemented this process and this concept in that, he paid that $470,000 off, not in 18, not in 15, not in 10 years. He paid it off in 61 months, 5 years and 1 month. And he paid off that $470,000 of debt. He paid it off with a $160,000 outside injection. All he did was add 1 step to his financial life. So he didn't have to change his cash flow. He didn't have to work any harder, take any additional risk, or lose control. He added 1 simple step in his life. And that's what I show you on that presentation at www.themoneymultiplier.com. Go to the top of the homepage where it says resources and click on presentation. And I show you exactly how that's done.
So Brent, one of the things, and I'm glad you're giving us, the audience, a place to go, because I think there's a lot to unwrap in this conversation. The one thing that stands out, and I almost want to leave them clues our audience and a guide to follow. You mentioned, your brother-in-law, life insurance. There's a lot of life insurance agents out there. There's a lot of insurance agents out there, period. What is the key word? And I know you said this, that we should be looking for as we're starting to dive deeper into this concept. Is it any typical life insurance? What's the key word that we're looking for? What kind of life insurance is this, so that our audience can kind of keep that on their radar, the reticular activating system, as we call it?
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, great question. So yes, no, it's not any type of policy. It is a specifically designed, specially engineered policy with a mutual company that pays dividends.
What does that mean when you say mutual company, just so we get a little bit of context?
Yeah, great. A mutual company is kind of different than a stock company. When you give money to a stock company, all right, so the people that are getting wealthy are the stockholders of that company, not you, the policy owner. So like in a mutual company, you are the owner of that contract. So you are part owner of that company. So the thing is that you share in the profits and the dividends of the company. So as the insurance company does better, they pay a higher dividend, and that dividend is distributed to the policy holders, which is you. Right?
Got it.
So it's going to be in a mutual company. It's a specifically designed, specially engineered policy. So it's just not any policy that you can get. Now,
and I think the word you said was whole life insurance.
Whole
policy.
life.
Whole life.
Absolutely. Whole life. Okay. So it's not term. It's not index universal. It's not universal. It's not variable. It is a whole life insurance policy. So that's why you're going to work with me, because remember, that's the only way I get paid is if you do the policy with me. And the reason you're going to do it with me is because this is all I do. I'm 100% this. This is the only thing that I do. I eat, live, and breathe this stuff. As a matter of fact, sometimes people will kind of criticize like other agents, and they'll say, oh, well, I can help you, Mr. Client, because I do X, Y, and Z. So I can help you with all of those
Jack
areas.
of all trades and master of none.
Yeah. Well, I tell you this. I say, look, okay, Ruben, all right, the thing is, let's say that you have a problem with your heart. Let's say you're having a health issue and you're having a problem with your heart. Well, if you have a problem with your heart, are you wanting to go to the general practitioner, the one that kind of dabbles in everything? Or do you want to go in to see the heart specialist, the one that 100% focuses on the heart? You want to go to the specialist. So I am the specialist in this industry. I don't think there's anybody in this country that does it any better than what we do. I just don't. I believe that we are the specialists in this arena, but this is all we do. We do one thing only. Now, even if you find somebody that understands the banking concept, like I'm describing, even if you find another agent that understands it, they're going to be very hesitant or skeptical to design your policy this way to make it work for the banking concept, to give you that high immediate cash value. And here's why. Because in order to design your policy this way, Ruben, the agent has to take a 60 to 90, 60 to 90, 90. They have to take a 60 to 90% cut in their commission, and they're not willing to do it. They're not willing to take that hit in their commission.
Brent, why are you willing to do it? I'm very curious.
I design your policy exactly like I design mine. There's no secret sauce that I put on mine that I don't put on yours.
Why are you willing to take that cut, just so we understand how your business really works?
Because it's the right thing to do, because we're using the policy not necessarily for the life insurance component and the death benefit. We're using it for that high cash value to use that money for the things that you're buying anyway. And actually, okay, so here's a quote by Zig Ziglar, the late Zig Ziglar. And here's what Zig Ziglar said. He said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll end up getting what you want. Hey, I get paid good, and I have a lot of clients, and everything I do is word of mouth. I have over 3,000 clients in every state of this country. I'm licensed in every state of the country. And so guess what I like most about my job, Ruben? Guess what the one thing is just that I like most is my clients are never mad at me. I do not have clients that are mad at me because people do not get mad at you when you're helping them build their wealth. And if I do have a client that's mad at me, they're keeping it a secret. They haven't told me about it.
That's fascinating to hear, just because I know that Zig Ziglar quote, and I knew you were going straight to it. And I think that's what it's about, right? The impact and fulfillment that you're having at scale. And to your point, the best marketing is when you have raving fans preaching and telling their peers about, hey man, you gotta check this out. You won't even believe it. And I think that's what we're on here. I want to touch on a few things, because what I want to do in these, when things are this, I guess you kept saying this, and I think it's important, right? We've never been taught this. So we need to rewire ourselves, because it's flight or fight, right? So we're protecting ourselves from new information. I'm like, that's I've never heard that. I haven't heard that in a long time. So let me just shut down. So what I try to do is highlight some areas that we are familiar with to kind of bring back that insight. And obviously they know exactly where to go. You've said it multiple times as far as the moneymultiplier.com. But you mentioned your servicing agent, which we're familiar with, because it's those who are listening are in the real estate space. There's like a mortgage broker and there's a lender, right? And a mortgage broker has the ability to pick the product that will best serve you and do the shopping for you. And what I really like is you really prefaced it by really helping us understand that, it's not you. They're not writing the check to you. You've built these relationships and you've done the homework up front to then serve the client for their best policy. Now, the second thing you talked about is dividends. And now I talked to you, we talked about this while we were offline about who's listing. Some of us are familiar with, are involved in syndications where we're passively investing money and we're getting dividends. When you say these dividends of these corporations, how often can one expect to get these dividends on top of their guaranteed return? Is it monthly, quarterly, annually? How does that work?
Yeah, no, great question. So like the dividends are declared annually, and then once a dividend is declared, it can never be retracted, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so here's what happens in the insurance company. Okay, the policyholder pays premium into the policy. And then what that insurance company does is they will take that money that the policyholders pay. And so the thing they do is they put about 80% of that money into investment grade bonds, good quality bonds. They put about 7% of that money goes into home loans and commercial mortgages, home and commercial mortgages. They put another 7% roughly goes into policy loans to their policy holders. And the other 7% they have to have in cash, where it's very accessible, because when death occurs, those death benefits have to be paid out, right? So that's the makeup of the insurance company. So every year, the insurance company records a profit, right? So they take that profit, and yes, they'll hold a little bit of that profit back for the administrative cost of the home office, just like running a business. I mean, you got to, right? The thing, you got to keep the lights on, you got to keep the phone on, you got to pay the rent for the building, right? But then they take the lion's share of that profit, and the thing they do is they distribute it to their policy holders in the form of a dividend, okay? Now, so that dividend can be paid to you. So the thing, you could take that dividend as a distribution, but I don't recommend that you do that. The thing I recommend you do is you take that dividend that the insurance company gives you, and it goes back into your policy, and it's buying you like mini policies. I mean, it's not really a mini policy. It's however you can think of it, just kind of like that. So the thing you're doing is taking that dividend, it goes back into the policy. So when that dividend goes back in the policy, it goes back into the policy, and it's buying you just more additional paid up additions insurance. We call it the PUA on the insurance policy. And what that's doing is it's increasing your cash value, it's increasing your loan availability, and it's increasing your death benefit. And it's all growing tax-free. So now that just gives you more money to borrow. It increases your death benefit. So I don't hardly have anybody, and as a matter of fact, I can't even tell you one client that I know, right? And again, I have over 3,000 clients, so I hate to say nobody is doing it, but I couldn't tell you one client that I know that has taken the dividend out as a distribution. They're letting it go back in the policy that's increasing cash value, loan availability, and death benefit. And all the companies have been paying dividends. Every company I work with, and I work with about 5 different ones all around the country. Like I said, I'm licensed in every state. Every company that I work with has been paying dividends for 140 plus consecutive years without fail.
Yeah, that includes the recessions, of course, and which is fascinating. I think one of the questions I was going to ask is what makes it? Actually, lost my train of thought on that because you're touching on such a key thing.
That's why I always say, Ruben, write your questions down. A short pencil's better than a long memory.
I love it. No, what I was going to ask is Brent, as I'm looking at this, is you talked about the cash value. You mentioned it a few times, and where the mind of leverage, etc. What does that mean when your cash value goes up? Is there a way to leverage that in any way, or is it just can you talk about that piece? Because I think that'll get the interest of our listeners, as we were very common with the leverage terminology.
Well, man, that is absolutely huge. And here's the cool thing about it is that all the money that you put in the policy is growing and compounded, and it's all uninterrupted, even though you're using the money. Even though you're using the money for the things you're buying in life anyway, all the money is still in your policy.
Can you give us an example? Let's say I have $100,000 and give us some context so we can really visualize.
I'm going to give you that. So, for example, when you watch my presentation, and when you see me go over the Money Multiplier map, the thing you're going to do is you're going to see somebody that's putting dollars into a policy every year on an annual basis. Now, remember, it doesn't matter how much you put in, right? I mean, no, it's not something that you have to have a lot of money to do. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. Everybody needs to break the bonds of financial slavery they don't even realize they're in and start taking control of their own money. I have people, Ruben, that put in $200 a month, and I have people that put in $3 million a year. So you pick a number in between that, to put in your policy. Now, remember, the cash value you're able to use right away immediately. So the thing when you do is you put money into the policy. Now, immediately, remember, that's within 30 days, you are now able to use cash from that policy. Each and every year, that number goes up. That's not me telling you. That is in your policy contract. Before you ever accept, sign, or pay for the policy, you will see exactly what those numbers are. So if you notice in my presentation, when you watch it, on the 5th year, in month 61, I show you where he puts in $10,000 into the policy, into premium, and he is going to immediately use $13,000. Now, look, I'm not a math genius or anything, but if you put 10 grand into something and you have $13,000 to use immediately, that is a 30% increase on your money. Now, let me ask you this, Ruben. How much of your money do you want growing at? How much do you want growing at 30% in 61 months? The correct answer is all of it.
All of it.
Now, it gets better with time. I will tell you about the oldest policy that I have that turned 13 years old in February of this year. In February of 2021, my oldest policy turned 13 years old. Well, this year, when I put $1 into that policy, every dollar I put in, Ruben, I was able to use $2.09. Put in $1, use 209. Now, guess what's going to happen next February, Ruben, when I put in $1? It's going to be a higher number. Why is it a higher number? Because it's 1 year older. It's 1 year more efficient. It's not me telling you this. It's in your policy contract. So those numbers continue to go up. And the cool thing about it is when you put the money in, and now you borrow it out, you borrow the money out from the insurance company. Because see, anytime you take a loan from the insurance company, Ruben, you're not borrowing your money. No, the thing you're doing is you're borrowing from the general fund of the insurance company. So what you're doing is putting your policy up for collateral, taking a loan from the general fund of the insurance company. So all of your money is in that policy, growing in that guaranteed tax-free growth rate environment, and the government is completely out of your hair.
And the next question I'm going to ask for our listeners who use hard money lending and use maybe a line of credit, what is the equivalent of like the interest, if any, that you would pay on that? How does that work on the money that you're borrowing from the fund?
Yeah, great question. I go through that in detail in my presentation. It's at the very beginning, like probably 10 minutes in, and I have 3 calculators on my presentation. And on those calculators, okay, the thing I showed you, the thing I proved to you is how you can borrow at a higher rate than what you're earning. For example, I show you how you can borrow at 6% and earn 4% and make money all day long. Now, see, our minds aren't programmed to think that way.
You said you're borrowing higher, just so we're clear.
You borrow at a higher rate. So in this example, you borrow at 6 and you earn 4. Now, most people would think, well, that's stupid. That's crazy, because if I borrow at 6 and I earn 4, I'm losing 2. But no, that's not how money works. And I walk through that on my presentation on those financial calculators. So the reason that I use 6 and 4 is because inside of the policy, Ruben, the guaranteed growth is 4%. That is the minimum. That is without the policy, or that is without the insurance company paying a dividend, okay? So the guaranteed growth rate is 4%. Now, guess what? That 4%, is it taxable or tax-free growth? It's tax-free. And tell me what our largest eroder of wealth is. Taxes. So I show you at 4% without dividends what happens, and then I show you borrowing from the policy or borrowing from the general fund at 6%. Now, I don't have an insurance company that charges 6% interest. The most is 5%. But the point I want to make is I show you how you can borrow at 6 and earn 4 and make money all day long. So once you see that, you will be like, oh, I get it. I see how it works. Because see, here's what happens. One is on a decreasing balance, right? The money that you borrow is going down. It's on a decreasing balance because you're paying back the loan. And okay, the money in the policy is on an increasing balance. It's growing and compounding. And also the cool thing is when you borrow, it's not compound interest that you're borrowing at. It's simple interest. So for example, all right, let's just say that you borrow out $10,000 and you pay 5% interest and you keep that money out for a year. Well, how much do you owe? You owe $500 simple interest because you kept it out for 12 months. Well, if you keep it out for 6 months, you only owe $250. So it kind of acts the same way as a HELOC would act, the home equity line of credit. You're only paying simple interest. But the cool thing, Ruben, is the loan never has to be paid back. You never, ever have to pay back that policy loan to the insurance company because the policy loan that you're taking is a prepayment of the death benefit. You're borrowing against the death benefit. So, Ruben, what you're doing is you're using your good, strong dollars today, and you're paying them back with weaker dollars in the future. And the insurance company, Ruben, can never lose. Okay, they can never lose because you're guaranteed to die. Now, I don't care, okay, as far as what word you use. Me, I like to use the word graduate instead of die, but you can use die, pass, or graduate. So in the policy, Ruben, the death benefit will always be higher than the cash value. So at the time of your death, okay, the thing that happens is the full death benefit gets paid out to your beneficiaries tax-free. Well, if you've been borrowing all during the time just while you're living to buy the things you're buying in life anyway, the thing that's going to happen is that death benefit will pay off any outstanding loan, right? Okay, so because the insurance company already gave you that money while you're living, so the death benefit will pay off the policy loan, and your beneficiaries will get the additional money, will go to them tax-free. Not only do they get the tax-free death benefit, Ruben, they get all the assets that policy loan paid off.
Is anybody else listening right now saying, where do I sign up? Because I got to give it to this. I mean, this is probably one of the second or third conversations I heard about it, and you've been so good at really breaking it down for us. And I'm sure that has something to do with back in your time, your 2 years of not taking that action of understanding and simplifying it in a way that people can understand. I mean, this was phenomenal. I mean, if you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel. We will have everything in the show notes for sure. But I you've done such a good job, and I can't thank you enough, Brent, for this. And the question I gotta leave you with is I know there's probably a lot of listeners listening that, hey, at what point should one get started, and who is eligible for this? Because, my next question to that is, what would you tell your, 20-year-old, 15-year-old self, how early can one person start this? And because just the compound sounds insane. Who is eligible for this?
As early as you want. I mean, you start as early as you want. I'll just tell you, I had a client of mine. He has 4 or 5 policies. And I'll tell you that, like, I have over 3,000 clients in every state of the country, Ruben. 91% of my clients that have been with me a year or longer have more than one policy. They come back for more because they see the power of how this works. Of that 91%, I have 70% that will come back before the first year is even up. Probably what your listeners are thinking, a lot of them are saying, what's the catch? This is too good to be true. That's what I thought, right? Well, I'm telling you, I do not know, Ruben, of another vehicle on this planet that has these features and benefits that allows you to, okay, so that works this way in like building your wealth. Every presentation I do, I ask people, I say, look, if there's something on this planet that works better with this, or that works better, okay, that works better than this, that has these features and benefits, tell me what it is, and maybe I'll stop teaching this and start teaching what you're going to tell me. Nobody's been able to tell me that. Nobody's been able to show me anything. But in your mind, you're thinking, there's got to be something to it. I'm telling you guys, don't overthink it. Do what the rich do. Do what the wealthy do. This is not on trial. It's not being tested. It's been around for over 200 years. I'll tell you a quote that I love, Ruben. There's a guy named Warren Buffett. I'm sure maybe you guys have heard of Warren Buffett. Now, I don't know when Warren Buffett said this, okay? But I heard him say it in October of 2008. And this is how simple I think it is. And I think about this quote every single day of my life. And here's what Warren Buffett said. He said, if poor people would just start doing what the rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. How much sense does that make, man? That's all we're going to do is we're going to mimic and imitate what the wealthy have been doing for over 200 years. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to do what they do. Because if you think about, Ruben, look, okay, us and the super wealthy, we all have access to the same financial tools. The only difference between us and the super wealthy is they use the financial tools differently than we do. Now that I know how to play the game, I'm playing the game right along with them, and I'm building wealth right along with them. So to answer your question, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what age you're at. It doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. The important thing is to just start. Just get started. In other words, if you want to learn how to swim, Ruben, you better jump in the damn pool. You got to get wet if you're going to learn how to swim. You're not going to learn how to swim by sitting on the sidelines or on the pool deck. So you got to get in. I'm not saying, okay, I'm not saying go dive into the ocean and you've never swam before, but go ahead and get your floaties that you put on your arms and get in the baby pool and start wading around a little bit and get wet and start learning how to swim. Take action, implement. Don't take my word for it. Go look at the success stories, the testimonials. Go look at all of the stuff that we have out there, the case studies, the plan designs. Don't take my word. Go research it. Because even if you wanted to start right now, Ruben, even if today was the day that you wanted to start, it's going to be at least a month before you can even start, because we have to get you approved for the policy. Okay, the insurance company has to make you look as good on the inside as you do in the outside. So what you're going to have to do is answer some health questions. You're going to have to pee in a cup. You're going to have to give a little blood, right? You got to look as good on the inside as you do on the outside. Now, even though there's probably some listeners are like, wow, it would be good, but I'm too old. No, you're not too old. You're not too old to do it. I'm telling you, just trust me. Or you may say, well, crap, I can't do it. I have cancer, so I'm not insurable. I just had 10 feet of my intestines removed. I just had a kidney transplant. So whatever it is, and maybe you're not insurable. That's okay. You can still do the concept. You can do everything we're talking about, but the policy would just not be on your body, right? So the insured individual wouldn't be you. But guess who you can insure? A spouse, a child, a grandchild, a brother, a sister, a niece, a nephew, somebody you have a business interest in, right? I mean, I actually have one guy that I know that's a colleague of mine. He actually owns 107 policies, 107 policies, and he was diagnosed with leukemia in 2006, and they gave him 90 days to live, right? Well, so ever since he got that diagnosis, he could never put a policy on himself, but he owns 107 policies. And again, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, so maybe it's more now. But again, the policies he owns is not necessarily on himself. He owns it on other individuals that he has a vested interest in. So don't be closed-minded. Any questions that you have, I want you to ask me. I want you to challenge me. I want you to drive me hard and okay, so challenge why this isn't the best thing on the planet to build wealth. And if I can't answer the question, I'll let you know, or I'll find somebody that can answer the question. But I'm telling you, this is a game changer in your financial life. So don't put this down. Go look at it. Even if you don't do it with me, you got to go look at it. So I'll leave you with this. Okay. Like I said earlier, go to my website, which is www.themoneymultiplier.com. Go to resources, click on presentation, watch the full presentation. And then, okay, so email me, Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. And if you want to discuss this more, I will, okay, the thing we can do is schedule a 45-minute strategy call. If we need less time, great, we'll take less. If we need more, we'll schedule a second call. But if you email me, I will send you all of my materials. I'll send you the presentation, the downloadable attachment. I'll send you my schedule calendar, and I'll send you this ebook called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. I'll send that to you. All you got to do is email me, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. All I do is referrals and word of mouth. I don't do marketing. I don't do advertising out there. So again, you're not going to see me advertising. Everything I do is based on events like this, right? I was invited by Ruben to come on this podcast and teach this. Why was I invited by Ruben? Because somebody that Ruben knows said, hey, you got to put Brent on your podcast, and he's got some good information for your listener. So I'll email that book to you, that ebook. Just email me, Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com.
And if you're listening, thank you, Brent, so much. That's a mapping out the millionaire mystery. That's the ebook, and just so you have it here, if you're not able to see the screen, Brent. I mean, look, I just to summarize and to recap. I believe in leading by example and taking action. You guys can rest assured, and you guys, you've seen my social media. I hold myself accountable, so I'll definitely be tapping into Brent's network, and that's the way to just lead by example, lead by action. Because I think what happens is we hear really cool information or really insightful, and then we just don't take the action, and that's what that's what. The reason why I'm doing this podcast, guys, is for that, to plant the seed and let you take action on every experiment. I love what Brent said about getting the floaties on, right? Because that's what you have to do. You got to dive in deep, dive in at least in baby pool, and then you can go a little deeper. And once you get a taste, and you guys have seen that in my own journey in the short-term rentals, right? We had Michael Shergren step in the lab, give me some insight, pull the trigger right away. We invested, we dove into it. At first, it seemed too real to be true, but it literally was not. It was exactly as stated. So this is why we do the podcast, guys. So if you guys want to go on this journey with me, make sure you go to themoneymultiplier.com. I'll be reaching out to Brent's team and pulling the trigger for sure. I'll keep you guys accountable on my social media. You'll see it on the Instagram, and I'll definitely give myself a copy as well to share with the audience. But Brent, what you've done today is you've come in as a true practitioner. You wore your white coat in the lab. You came in, you stepped in, you dropped some value, and I can't thank you enough. And is there any last thing you want to leave with the group? You've left us so much. Any other ways we can connect with you besides the Money Multiplier? I know you give a big plug to your partner there on social. Is there any other place we can check out and see what wonderful stuff you and your team is doing?
Yeah, I would definitely follow Chris Naugle for sure. The guy that wrote the book with me. He's from Buffalo, New York. Follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram. So Chris does, Chris does, let's see, it's, okay, yeah, Chris does what we call a Wealth Wednesday webinar, and he does it at 1 p.m. Eastern time live every Wednesday, Wealth Wednesday webinar. So I would plug into that. He also does, it's called Ask Me Anything. That's at 4:30. It's at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, and it's where people can call in, text in, email in. It's just a rapid fire of questions. It's like almost an hour of just a rapid fire of questions. I would also watch whenever we do events, go to our event calendar that we do. We do like quarterly. We usually do a 2-day virtual seminar. We're also like just getting back into the live events again, where we're traveling and speaking live, for people where we get invited to, I do a lot of things with like real estate, like Realty 411, another thing called Think Realty. We do the Noteworthy. We do Paige Panzarello, Cash Flow.
In other words, Brent is everywhere, guys. You can't miss him. He's everywhere.
So plug in to all of that stuff. And I'll tell you guys, all right, so all the stuff I'm teaching, I am actually doing this in my own life. I'm in the trenches digging the ditch. So I'm not telling you to do something that I'm not doing. I will show you my own policies. I have 19 policies. I put about $500,000 a year into my own premium. I buy at least one policy every 12 to 24 months because I want as much money getting into this vehicle as possible. I have 3 children, age 19, 21, and 32. They all have their own policies. My 19-year-old, my 21-year-old daughter, so her name is Hannah. So Hannah is my assistant. She's like my right hand. All right. So Hannah actively implements this in her own life. My son, Zach, 19, he's my private commercial pilot. We fly our own airplane. I told you earlier that that I had chiropractic clinics in Kansas City. Well, I sold all my clinics, the last one in 2017. I live in Port Orange, Florida now. I live in Port Orange, which is about an hour east of Orlando. It bumps up the next to Daytona Beach. And I live in a community called the Spruce Creek Fly-In. You can go Google it. It's called the Spruce Creek Fly-In. It's kind of famous for where John Travolta used to live. He's actually 4 doors down from my house. And what makes the community interesting is it's an aviation community. A lot of the houses have airplane hangars attached to their house. So we have our own plane. It's like a jet with a prop on it. So my son is our commercial pilot. So he flies us around to wherever we go. And again, guys, I'm like you. You know, I put money into real estate. I do hard money lending. I do notes. As a matter of fact, a property that I just recently bought, it's on Captiva Island, Florida, which is like over by Sanibel, Fort Myers. So anyway, go look up. It's called CaptivaBeachSunset.com. CaptivaBeachSunset.com. It's a house with a blue roof. Well, anyway, I bought that house. I bought the lot right on the Gulf that's in front of it. I bought it as an Airbnb, a VRBO. It does about $270,000 a year in rental income. It rents $800 to $1,200 a night, about 42 to 45 weeks a year. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I used the money in the policy to buy the house, and now I'm making money on the house, right, as the rental income, but the money never left my family, right? The money that I paid for the house is still in my policy, growing and compounding tax-free, so I'm double dipping. So all 3 of my children own multiple policies, age 19, 21, and 32. They all live in their own houses. They bought their own houses with their policies. They bought their own cars with their policies. My daughter and I were just talking earlier. My daughter likes to travel and she likes to camp. She likes to travel and she likes to go just to these concerts, you know, around the country where you go together, you get in a big old field and you get bands that come. She loves that stuff. She's always loved that stuff. But now she wants her own customized conversion van. So now we're talking about her getting this conversion van that's going to be between $90,000 and $120,000, however many bells and whistles she puts into it. But it's okay, Ruben, because the thing she's going to do, she's going to buy the policy, she's going to buy the van with the money in her policy. And not only is she going to buy the van, she's going to recapture and recycle and get all that money back. It is a game changer when you start recapturing and recycling those dollars that have been going out to other people. It drastically changes your financial life, and it happens pretty quick.
Wow, guys, Brent gave you some practical, tactical advice and personal examples, which is what we love. I don't even think he realizes what he did, because we only invite true practitioners, action takers, and those who are doing it. And he left that information for you guys. So make sure you go to moneymultiplier.com, go to the resources tab, check out the video. Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery is the ebook. Reach out to Brent. It's Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. Is that correct?
Brent at themoneymultiplier.com.
Excellent.
That's right.
Excellent, guys. You heard it here. Our job is done and yours has just begun. And just like that, we are out.